the fuck? Well, good thing we have other ones ready to go. Hello, everyone. My name is Claudia, and I still heart media. I have active pimples on my face, which is why I'm really glad I'm filming on my shitty iPad. It's not very sunny outside, and I think we're ready to go. Let's just jump straight into it, guys. It's been a wild month. I meant to film this earlier. I did film this earlier, actually, but in that video, I started crying about David Lynch a little too much. And when I tell you, the rest of the video after I cry is literally nonsensical because my brain was too focused on David Lynch that I simply could not continue. However, we're ready to go today. We're of clear and sound mind, and I think it's ready to talk about some media that I've been enjoying. Let's get into it. This summer, I turned pretty. I fucking love The Summer I Turned Pretty. Is it fantastic? No. However, every generation needs its new love triangle that we can endlessly and continuously debate in comment sections. So for that, I am grateful that this is the one we have right now. It's also very nostalgic to me because, like a true white Canadian, I grew up going to a lot of cottages. So this just reminds me of a lot of my childhood, a lot of my summers, except I did not have any crushes because unlike Belly, I had a lot of family friends I grew up with, but to me, the idea of dating any of them literally makes me sick to my stomach because those are my family. But we had different upbringings, so I will not drag her for that. I will drag Susanna for that, however. I am Team Jeremiah. Don't leave just yet. I'm not a full Team Jeremiah. I'm more just like if Belly was an actual teenager who actually existed, I would tell her that Jeremiah was the better one to date. But in the context of a television show, I would say I'm Team Conrad. It's complicated, let me get into it. Jeremiah is nicer to Belly. Point blank, period. You can argue that up until, the cows come home, but with the unequivocal evidence we have, he has been nicer to her. He has said more nice things to her. He has done more nice things for her than Conrad has. It's just kind of irrefutable. Conrad has caused Belly a lot more pain. Conrad is one that is quicker to say something that he'll regret saying later. He's quick to acting in ways that he doesn't necessarily agree with later. He lets his emotions really cloud his judgment a lot. And for a young girl's relationship, I don't necessarily condone being with someone like Conrad. I'm 23 now, almost 24. I've been in many situations where I've been with a Jeremiah, and they're so nice and they're so sweet. But that's it. You know what I mean? You just because someone treats you well does not mean that they're the love of your life, and that doesn't mean that they have to be the love of your life. And I've been with Conrads. Oh, buddy, I've had my Conrad. I can tell you that much. And when I tell you it's painful, it's annoying, and a lot of the time you're being, going through this roller coaster of emotions. However, unfortunately, I'm not saying this is right. I'm not saying this is the way it should be. You feel more. The moments that are good are so good. And that's what makes the sad moments that much more heartbreaking. Because, this was your person. I'm getting ahead of myself here. I think it is also interesting watching the show because I rewatched it this April because the final season is coming out in June. So I kind of just wanted to have a little refresher, a little prep, so to speak. And I find it interesting that every time I do rewatch the show, because I actually rewatch this show quite a lot. It's one of those shows that I like just having in the background. I kind of come to a different conclusion as to if I'm Team Conrad or Team Jeremiah, to be quite honest. And I think with my most recent viewing, I really was starting to get where Jenny Hahn was coming from in the creation of this show. And by the way, I'm going to talk mostly about the show. I know a little bit about the books, but not enough to like really truly comment on them. It's interesting because the older you get, and I'm not trying to say this like I am knowledgeable about everything now. I know everything now because I'm 23. I know everything because my name is Claudia. Nice to meet you. Hi. I'm just kidding. I feel more now. Like, it's kind of a thing of, you look back at those relationships you had that were very adolescent, that were that like young love, so to speak, and you look at them a lot differently than you look at them if it were happening to you right now in this moment. I think the only way I can kind of explain this is it's like you're looking at these relationships through a periphery lens. You're not thinking of them as things that are happening to you right now. Like, is this how I want to be treated in a relationship in my life right now? You're more looking at it as like, let's look at that story about a version of myself that no longer exists, and what would happen to that version of me, that young adolescent version of me that is going through the emotions and going through the cycle of life that a adolescent version of myself would go through, if that makes any sense. You're not looking at it as what's the most healthy, what's the most non-toxic, what's the going to make everyone the happiest ever. You're looking for those like kind of big emotions, those epic highs and lows of high school football. You're looking for that kind of what makes young love so appealing and why it is a constant trope in our media. You look at these stories in periphery and you know that Conrad is hurting. Conrad is a teenage boy who doesn't know how to handle his emotions. And yes, I do agree with the sentiment that a lot of people say where they're like, well, Conrad's going through a lot. Jeremiah's going through a lot too. Like, his mom also has cancer. His mom is also dying. But you can't expect everyone to work the same way when dealing with an immense amount of grief. I think Conrad's character is also very interesting to me because I think he is someone who deals with mental health issues. Like, I legitimately think, in my perspective of the show, that he is very depressed and he very much succumbs to his depression a lot. I also low-key think he's like a little autistic, but that's just like neither here nor there. I also think of Conrad a lot when I think of Team Jess from Gilmore Girls, like Jessie Moreno, because unfortunately, I will always be Team Jess. And the reason I'm always Team Jess is not necessarily because I think he treated Rory the best, because like, yeah, you would argue that was Logan. I am Team Jess because him and Rory had the best connection, but he fucked it up, and I know he fucked it up, and I'm not trying to take away from the fact that he fucked it up. I am Team Jess because I know that Jess is hurting, and I know that Jess will become a man that is a good person, will become a man that will overcome all of his obstacles. But right now, even though he has met someone who is in a lot of ways very perfect for him and matches him intellectually, he cannot be with her right now because he has so much growing to do, you know? And that's how I feel about Conrad. I feel about him in this way of like, the version of him that we have right now is not the one, but the connection that him and Belly have is undeniable. And stuff like that never really goes away, you know? But again, if this were my daughter, if this were my daughter and she was going through this shit and I saw that her boyfriend on the day of her prom was like, forgot my daughter's corsage, and he, you know, you can argue that she broke up with him, but basically like they had a huge blowout fight at her prom. I saw that my daughter was calling this boy that was in like college every single day, and she was like not doing well in school and not doing well on the volleyball team. I would not like him. I would objectively not like this guy in comparison to Jeremiah, who is there for Belly's volleyball games, who is consistently there when she needs him. Like, it's kind of obvious, right? I think that's kind of the important thing. And what I like about stories like The Summer I Turned Pretty and a lot of these coming of age stories is I think it teaches a lot of young women lessons. I think it teaches them what they want and don't want in a relationship. I do think a lot of people make too many excuses for Conrad, and that's the thing that I really want to emphasize here. Like, I don't excuse a lot of his behavior. I think he's extremely rude and awful to Belly, especially in season 1. In season 2, I recently just finished it, and I was so, like, taken aback by this, I think it's the last episode, the second last episode, where he, after he sees Conrad or Jeremiah and Belly make out, and he gets so rude. And like, listen, you can argue that he had justification for being rude, like, sure, whatever, but he was so rude to the point that it was kind of cruel. And especially the fact that, like, he was Belly's first time, and he's kind of like flaunting around like, oh, like, I thought hot cocoa was your specialty. Like, he's kind of trying to throw it back in her face a little bit. Incredibly shitty, incredibly not good. I think Conrad has a lot of maturing to do, even though he loves telling everyone else, grow up. I think he is the one who really needs to get his shit together in order to deserve Belly, to be quite honest. Other things about the show, I love Steven. Steven is my favorite character. I think he's really toxic in a lot of ways, especially in season 2. But I just, like, really love him. I think the actor is so cute, and I love him. I love his voice. I have a crush on him. Like, it's fine. I kind of like him and Taylor. I really liked him and Kayla at first, so I was very like, oh, are they really doing this? But they did it, and I was okay with it. I made peace. And it was really cute, like, the moment when she's, like, packing up for volleyball camp, and she kind of cries to him, being like, I'm so scared, like, I've kind of loved you my whole life, and I'm with you, and it doesn't feel real, like, it feels, you know, it was very vulnerable, and it was very cute, and, like, you know, so real. Cam Cameron is a character I consistently feel bad for, like, not because of him and Sky. Love Sky. You all were so mean to the actor who played Sky and the character of Sky in season 2. Y'all are transphobic. Check up on that. I feel bad for Cam Cameron because Cam Cameron was, like, literally working, and they just, like, basically kidnapped him and then, like, went to the country club and, like, kind of terrorized it, and Cam Cameron the whole time is just like, guys, please be careful and put stuff back because my mom literally is employed here and literally could get fired if we do shit like this. Don't even get me started on Cam Cameron, that poor boy. I'm curious how they're gonna do the new season, because they've really, obviously I haven't read the books, but from what I have gathered from the internet, I know that Jeremiah cheats on Belly, and when I say cheats on Belly, he cheats on Belly. They break up, he goes to Cabo, and then he cheats on her with a girl named Lacey, or, like, he sleeps with a girl named Lacey, but again, at this point, they are broken up, and then they get back together kind of immediately. It is still shitty, and it is still shady, like, you know, don't do that, don't fucking do that. If I found out that a partner of mine did something like that, I would be, pissed. In the version of Jeremiah that we have now, like, I am really surprised if they take that route, because I know, like, Jeremiah in the books and Jeremiah in the show are quite different. I honestly think, and unfortunately so, I think what they are going to have to do is have him, like, actually cheat on Belly, in order for us to, like, fully switch sides of this ship war, you know? Because right now Jeremiah is, like, too good to Belly, that if he did something like that, I think a lot of people would be like, well, what did he do wrong? Like, they broke up and then he slept with another girl, like, he's allowed to do that. But I think they do have to make him cheat on Belly, which is so tragic. Oh, Susanna is my op. Susanna is my op. What do you mean you basically told a baby Belly that she was destined for one of your 2 boys? You told Belly when you were on death's door to take care of her sons. Like, that's the responsibility that you put on a 16-year-old girl. What do you mean when you found out that her and Conrad broke up, the first thing you say to her is, don't hate Conrad? You're my op. Susanna is my op. For real. Next we have Catching the Big Fish by David Lynch. So last time I started talking about this, I started crying. I fully expect I'm going to start crying again, but let's see what happens. Catching the Big Fish is a book written by David Lynch. I did the audiobook version of this, and that was mainly because I wanted to hear David Lynch's voice, to be quite honest. And it was really nice. It's a short book, and it's kind of about like his creative process, especially through the lens of transcendental meditation. A lot of really good and like memorable quotes that we have from David Lynch are actually from this book. So it's kind of a really sweet read. And it was just like really nice to hear his voice. He reminds me, and like this is why I love David Lynch a lot. And I've talked about this before many a times online, but I'll, reiterate it once again. The thing I really love about David Lynch is he came from a period of time where directors, especially male directors, were taught through the lens of the tortured artist. In order to be a good director, you have to have like a very single, unified concept that is only done by you, and people must mold to your idea. And in order to do so, you had to do that through abuse. You had to do that through being a loud, commanding man. And David Lynch has like a very opposite approach than a lot of these men. His approach was very open. His approach was never through pain. And like, I don't know, you can even just see in interviews the women who David Lynch has worked with, even down to like characters who had like one line in one episode of the revival. They can talk about how David Lynch was like a lovely, understanding, thoughtful man. And a lot of male directors cannot say the same thing. And I'm crying. Okay. He also reminded me David Lynch was also a visual artist, was a painter before he became a filmmaker, and he kind of essentially thought of film through the lens of painting. And it's such an interesting and layered commentary that I always really related to because I'm a visual artist first. David Lynch has this very famous quote in his book in relation to pain, and I always think it's really radical in a lot of ways. And again, like coming from the generation of filmmakers he came from, it is really kind of inspirational, I would say. Right here, people bring up Vincent van Gogh as an example of a painter who did great work in spite of or because of his suffering. I like to think that Van Gogh would have been even more prolific and even greater if he wasn't so restricted by the things that tormented him. I think his painting brought him whatever happiness he had. Like, what a beautiful quote. What a beautiful philosophy to have on art and creation. That actually the point of art is to make us feel better. And pain should not come at the cost of making art. Pain should actually be there to alleviate us from the pain of life. This is one of the most famous quotes from the book. You've probably heard this before if you know anything about David Lynch, but I think it's just a really good thing to remind yourself. Ideas are like fish. If you want to catch the little fish, you can stay in the shallow water. But if you want to catch the big fish, you've got to go deeper, deep down. The fish are more powerful and more pure. They're huge and abstract, and they're very beautiful. Anyway, rest in peace, David Lynch. I love you literally so much, and it's actually so fucked up that I'll never get to meet you. Next is Manhattan by Woody Allen. I'm so sorry. But I did watch Manhattan this month and I want to talk about it, so we're gonna talk about it. If you don't know who Woody Allen is, maybe don't look him up. But essentially, there are very few men in Hollywood who've gotten truly canceled, and I would say that Woody Allen is one of them. He does still work. He does still make movies. It is still a thing that undeniably happens. However, I do call him canceled only because, like, his name will never not be synonymous with, like, the Me Too movement, and will never not be synonymous with the things he has done, to be quite honest. And I think that's for the best, obviously. However, it is undeniable that he was a really good filmmaker in a lot of ways, and he was an excellent writer, and he did influence a lot of our favorite filmmakers to this day. So I think completely erasing his body of work out of the conversation isn't helpful, really, in any way. There's actually a really good book on this topic. I read it a few months ago now. It's called Monsters by Claire Dederer. I'll put it in the description. It's a really good book, and I really appreciated it, especially because some of my favorite filmmakers are men who've done terrible things. So grappling with really loving these pieces of work that are kind of really important to our understanding of art and filmmaking and the world at large, while still understanding that they are monsters, that they are terrible men who have done terrible things, is really interesting. And it's also really hard, especially as a woman. So I absolutely recommend that book. So this movie is kind of crazy. Sorry, I'm just re-looking at Woody Allen's filmography, and it is pretty crazy how he's actually quite consistently worked. And also, like, any of your favorite actors have been in a Woody Allen movie. Like, basically, Woody Allen, one of his movies that was kind of his claim to fame, I would say, was the movie Annie Hall with Diane Keaton. His other big Diane Keaton movie, it's called Manhattan, and the movie starts with Woody Allen essentially playing himself and his 17-year-old girlfriend. And the movie's so wild about it too, because they're like, you know, he has like, they get dinner with his friends who are like his age, and then his friends like go home that night and they're like, what'd you think of the girlfriend? And they're like, well, you know, I think she's lovely, like, you know, lovely 17-year-old girl, like, I don't think she's too young. I think, like, you know, she's got a good head on her shoulders. And you're like, what? It's also crazy because, like, Woody Allen is so an old man in this movie. I think he's, like, late 40s in this movie. Something like that. And it's just so, like, what reality would this happen in? You know what I mean? Well, I mean, it actually happens all the time. But just seeing it on screen, like, it really... looks so absurd to see it on screen, you know what I mean? And it's kind of shocking, to be quite honest. And I mean, it was made in 1979, so things were different, obviously, but I can't imagine they were so different that this was like cool and chill. It is interesting because this movie is still very highly regarded. Like, I was trying to find reviews, and the general sentiment is like, yeah, this was quite weird and Woody Allen is a creep. However, this movie is really good. I almost think, like, especially with the context of everything we know about Woody Allen now, I almost view it in a different lens of, like, this was a man kind of grappling with his youth and grappling with the complicatedness of dating, really, and finding love, finding the one. Is essentially him. He's with his 17-year-old girlfriend. He meets Diane Keaton's character, who's like a woman around his age, and she's having an affair with one of Woody Allen's friends, right? And essentially, Woody Allen and Diane Keaton end up falling in love. He breaks it off with his girlfriend. Diane Keaton breaks it off with the guy she's having an affair with. They get together. They're happy. They're whatever. However, Diane Keaton ends up going back with the guy she's having an affair with, and he leaves his wife. So they run off together. So Woody Allen is left in the lurch, kind of being like, well, shit, like, what do I do with myself? And earlier in the movie, when he was breaking up with a 17-year-old girlfriend, he told her, go to London, because she had like a school thing. She was like, for a year, essentially, a school program that she was going to. He was like, go do it. Like, go be 17, be young. I shouldn't be caging you in the way that I have, right? And initially she's very like, no, like, I want to be with you. I want to be here. I want to, you know, whatever. But then in the end of the movie, when he finally comes back to her, she's literally on her way to the airport. And he's like, don't go. Stay with me. I love you. And she's like, bro, like, my bags are literally packed. Like, I'm waiting for my taxi to go to the airport. Like, my flight leaves in literally 2 hours. Like, you literally waited until the last possible feasible moment to do this. What is wrong with you? And he's like, yeah, I know, but, like, don't go. And it's the whole pain of it all, right? Is it's not even, and I think that was the thing that I kind of took away from the movie, is like, all these relationships are so torrid in their own way, right? There's someone's lying to someone is deceiving someone wants to act with their pure intentions, but something is holding them back. And it's the lies, the twisting, everyone is enwrapped and enmeshed in each other's life, which kind of is what happens when you get older. And we even see this with his ex-wife in the movie, who's played by Meryl Streep. She is writing a book about her whole relationship with Woody Allen. And Woody Allen is like, damn, like, can't anything be sacred? And she's like, no, this is my art. This is, whatever. Nothing feels pure in romance and relationships. So that's why he looks at his relationship with the 17-year-old girl as this thing that is pure, as this thing that is, like, sacred, right? Because she hasn't grown up yet. She hasn't seen, the world. She doesn't know anything else but him. So there is a pureness to her. But, like in the movie, she's like, can't you wait a year? My program's only a year. I'll be back in New York after that. And he's like, I can't wait. Which is, funny because, again, earlier in the movie, he was begging for her to go. He was saying, like, maybe in 5 years when, you're older and I'm, like, whatever, maybe we'll be together again. He always was telling her to go. He always was telling her to go live her life. But then the minute that he wants to revert back into the fantasy, he's actually like, nope, I want to take that all away from you. I want to take that all back. And, it's really fucked up, right? And again, especially when you think about the context of Woody Allen now, I think it just kind of adds a layer deeper. And I'm not saying that to sympathize with Woody Allen at all, obviously. I'm more saying it to be like, I think a lot of men feel this way, and I think that's why a lot of men go after young women, to be quite honest, because the fantasy is not fully formed. It's a not fully formed thing. And they're just lying to themselves when they do shit like this. Anyway, I thought it was a very interesting movie, and I did like it. Unfortunately, I did like it. We're talking about Sinners, bitch. Sinners was so good, guys. I watched it twice this month. I honestly am gonna try to see it again at some point. Maybe I'll see it on, like, on a cheap Tuesday or something like that. I am fucking gagged. That movie was so good. I haven't seen a movie in a while that, like, really got me like that one. I would probably say Nosferatu was the last movie that, like, really had a grip on me like this movie did. I just love, like, a big Hollywood production. You know what I mean? I love a movie that feels grandiose, that feels like it's telling a big story. And it has all the elements of a big story, It has the humor, it has the heart, it has the tears, and it has the romance, the sweeping romance. But it also has moments that are kind of musical and, like, all of these things, but also very action heavy, right? All of these things really just add, like, these feel, in the famous words of Harry Styles, it feels like a movie. I do think, for me personally, one of the interesting elements of the movie was kind of the creation of whiteness and the absurdity of racism, right? And that, I think, is a thing that I find interesting with a lot of the critiques of the movie. And I think it's because people are kind of forgetting that we're watching something that's not that doesn't have our modern sensibilities, right? Especially with the character of Haley Steinfeld, who plays Mary. Mary is such a misunderstood character to me because I think people are not understanding that, like, if you had any drop of, like, black in you, you were considered a Black person in this time period. So even though Haley Steinfeld is white and looks incredibly white, because they knew her family lineage, they would not treat her as a white woman in that society. I think people are also forgetting that Smoke and Stack were raised by Mary's mother. A white woman in the South was not raising two Black twin boys, right? Like, that was not happening. They talked about how she was nursing them. That was not the job of the white woman of the house. That was done by women of color. That was done by Black women in this segregated society, right? So that is the reason that Mary had to go to another town to be perceived as a white woman. They had to have no traces of her family lineage. And that's how she's able to secure a white husband and be, treated better by society. However, the tragedy of that is you are losing a part of your identity. Even though she is 1/8 Black, that is still a part of her identity. And especially considering the way she grew up, that is a part of her identity that is heavily connected with her mother and heavily connected with her upbringing, especially the love of her life, Stack. She doesn't want to let go of this part of herself. Like she said herself, you made me white. I didn't want to be. I wanted to be with you. Wanted to be with her partner. She wanted to be in the community that she loved and connected to. However, that was never going to be the reality for them, because if the wrong person saw Stack and Mary together, it would have been very, very bad for both of them, and especially Stack. Also, I think why Mary was the one that was so susceptible to the vampires in the story, and that's what I find really interesting about why they had it be Mary, is because of her disconnect from her ancestors, her disconnect from her background due to whiteness, due to the perceived idea of whiteness. She is essentially, unlike someone like Annie, who is very deeply connected and close to her ancestral background, she was actually much more easy to be co-opted and coerced into vampirism. And it also obviously ties into the fact that her mom very recently died, and that was her kind of connection to that side of herself. So she feels very like, I'm at a loss. I have nowhere to go. I don't know my people, right? Because she doesn't have people, because she is made of too many different things now, right? I mean, obviously we can also talk about the fact that Remick, when Preacher Boy was in the water and he was like saying, "Our mother who art in heaven, hallelujah," whatever. And Remick started repeating it, and all the vampires started repeating it. That was fucking crazy. Are you kidding me? Oh my god, I was so shook by that. Having vampires like repeat stuff from the Bible is like, you don't do that. But it was so genius, because then Remick was like, that's what the people who took my father's land, who colonized my people, that's what they said to us. Those were the prayers they were saying to us. I hated those men, but their prayers brought me comfort. And that's what religion is. It's the opium of the people. Opiate of the masses. Not opium of the masses. So many other elements to talk about when we talk about Sinners, but honestly, those were the things that like particularly stuck out to me. I highly encourage to go watch the movie, obviously, if you haven't watched the movie already, but go watch other people's opinions about Sinners that aren't mine, because I only have one very small connection to this movie. But I think a lot of other people do, especially a lot of people in the American South. I'm Canadian, so that's why I'm prefacing that. This story is the story of their grandparents and their great-grandparents. It's not far history, and I think that's what's so important about the time they set it in as well. That movie is so genius. I want to go watch it again. God. Also, like, Michael B. Jordan is the hottest man alive, but like, whatever. We don't need to talk about it. So that was my list of my big, chunky, beefy things that I really loved this month. Let's talk rapid fire about some other smaller things I've really loved this month. Rewatched Daria again this month. Daria is kind of one of those shows that I just kind of have on in the background sometimes. I have been watching it since I was like in high school. I love Daria so much. It's one of those shows that I think a lot of people vaguely know what it's about, but I think it's only until you actually start watching the show you know how good it is. The writing on Daria is actually some of the best like teen television show writing that you will really ever see, to be quite honest. And I looked it up a while ago. I don't remember exactly, but part of the reason for that is because a lot of the people who worked on the show were women. It was a pretty even split, but I would say like it was very much held up by a lot of the female writers in the show. And I think you can really, really tell. I think a show like Daria, it would have been very, very easy for it to only be very like not like other girls, misogyny, Daria doesn't even care about looks. Daria, you know, she wouldn't even care about things like that. But they never really put the blame on these individual girls, like, you know, the cheerleaders or Daria's younger sister Quinn, who is like a popular girl who cares about her looks, cares about fashion, whatever. They never really truly put the blame on the girls for the way they act. They're putting blame on society for making these girls believe that they have to act this way, right? I think a worse show would have just done popular girls are stupid and evil and bleh, you know, when Daria never does that. I actually really love that Daria very often challenges Daria's beliefs on things. And I think that's what makes the show really rewatchable, is because I get new kind of takeaways at the different ages I'm at when I watch the show. Yeah, I really recommend. It's like one of the best shows out there, to be quite honest. I think Misery Chick is probably one of the best episodes of the show. If you really want like the core of what Daria is about, I would recommend that. But I would, you know, start at the beginning. But just know when you're getting to Misery Chick, you're going to get to some good beefy episodes. The next thing I wanted to talk about this month is Cowboy Carter tour. Holy shit. Honestly, I might do like a full segment on the next month's video, just because I have been like utterly obsessed with every single video from the Cowboy Carter tour. Cowboy Carter album is one of my favorite albums, like honestly probably of all time, but especially in this past year because it came out around this time last year. It has been like I think I listen to it, or at least some of it, at least once a week, to be quite honest. Like it's always on rotation, you know what I mean? I really love Beyonce. I've always loved Beyonce, but I think like this year I've developed like a real deep appreciation for the kind of artist that she is. I mean, I always have, but like I really sunk my teeth into it this year. You know what I mean? And I think this album is just perfection. This is the only reason I'm jealous of Americans, is because I wanted to go to this goddamn tour. But like, you know, obviously I could have hypothetically gone to the tour, but it would have been $1 million, and then I would have had to fly to America and go somewhere to America, and right now I don't really want to go to America at all, to be quite honest. So that's tragic. But the thing I want to talk about specifically is, oh my god, I'm gonna cry again, Protector, when she has been bringing Rumi on stage for Protector. Now, so far, there's only been 2 shows, so those are the only videos that I have seen. But when I tell you, when the first round of tour videos, like from the first show, came out, and it was showing Rumi coming on stage for Protector, and it's like, you know, Beyonce, and then Rumi, and then Blue is right above them. It's just so beautiful, and so, like, metaphorical. First of all, like, Blue Ivy Carter has become, like, such a beautiful force in front of our eyes, and I love watching it. She's only 13, tall as fuck for a 13-year-old, by the way. Her dancing and her skill, like, you can really see that she has put in the work, and it is, like, undeniably paying off. And then seeing Rumi, who's this child who is just so happy to be there, and she's, you know, she's on stage and she sees her mother in what her mother does best, right? being Beyonce, like being this literal like siren, like this like the golden voice, right? In this huge stadium packed to the brim of people who love her mom, who love her, who love Blue Ivy. And it's so childlike and innocent that she's just like, you know, hi, like she's waving at everyone. Oh my god, she's a kid, you know what I mean? Like, she's a kid. She has her little choreography, like she has to raise her hand up, but she doesn't give a shit. She's like, I'm gonna go say hi to my friends. And just, it's so metaphorical too, to have Blue be the one to kind of hold herself over Beyonce and Rumi. Blue is the projection of Beyonce. Blue is, I mean, in a lot of ways, like, obviously we can visually see that Blue looks so much like her mother. She has so much of the stage presence of her mother. But also, when Rumi was like, ever since she was born, the media has been so mean and nasty to Blue Ivy Carter. Very anti-black, very weird and misogynistic and misogynoir, and she has had to deal with that firsthand ever since she was born, and now she's putting her little sister in that same spotlight, and it's kind of like a, no matter what these people say about you, I will be there for you, because I know it firsthand, like I've seen it firsthand, and I'm here to protect you. And it's just so beautiful, because she's just like this little girl who's so excited to be there with her mom and her older sister. And she doesn't know the bad things. She doesn't know the pain that Beyonce has gone through in terms of how cruel the internet and the world has been to her. She doesn't know any of how hard her sister has, you know, been treated by the world. All she knows is, these are the people I love, and here are all these people who love the people I love. This is the same mom who sings me songs when I'm falling asleep. And it's just so beautiful. And the song itself, like, Protector, is such a beautiful song. And it's so, you know, I first saw your face in your father's gaze. There's a long line of people carrying your name. The weight of legacy is such a big and important part of that. And I think it's just so beautiful and so incredibly well done. Oh my god, I didn't expect this to be the video where I cried the whole time. Most recently, I saw the play A Girl in a School Uniform Walks into a Bar by Lulu Rakisa. I'll put the name in the description, apologies. But that was a really, really good show. I highly encourage you just to go in your neighborhood, in your area, in your city, in your town, whatever. Go see some live theater. It really will never do you wrong and will always just, like, get more ideas and stuff flowing in that little pea brains of yours. And it's really fun. So, hell yeah. The final thing I've been enjoying this month is the sun. It is dreary out today, and it's been dreary the past couple days, but we've had some days of, like, really good, really fun sun, and I know it's only going to get better from here, and I'm holding out on that because I need to be in a tiny little tank top and teeny tiny little shorts running around the city with just so much pit sweat you literally can't even comprehend it, and I have a big gulp in my hand, and my hair is so greasy and so disgusting that it's in like a big old claw clip, and I'm free, basically. That's everything from me this month of iHeartMedia. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you reach out to me next month when I do this again. Hopefully I'll be a little bit more on time next month. Please let me know if you have any recommendations for what I should talk about next month. It can literally be anything. I'm up to read, watch, listen to, whatever. Let me know what you have been enjoying this month. I love hearing what you guys have to say. And keep it breezy.